All right. Hello, everyone. This is the recording for the metadata for share export location. And yeah, Ashley, floor is yours.
Thanks, Carlos. All right, so this is an implementation for the metadata for user resources. We have currently metadata for shares, share snapshots, subnet, network subnets, and so this will be the fourth for export locations. To preface, some of this metadata, like methods in the database layer, already existed. That was for use, I believe, by the drivers. But now we're exposing that to the users. And of all those commands, the only one being newly implemented would be updating and getting single items. For this, we have bumped to 286, although that number may change depending on the order in which we get these in. The abstracted metadata controller has dictionaries for these implemented resources where we use a get attribute in the abstracted methods themselves to get the right resource. Let's see. We've also exposed these methods in the router and at within policies as well. You have to be not admin, but you do need write permissions or read permissions for get and indexing or listing. So let's see, yeah. So this is in the database layer, right? So the only thing we really had to implement here was get single item and update single item. So not too many differences in this file. As for tests, I think we only really tested, or I only really tested the get item. I should probably, I could test some more. It is failing the coverage CI job. That's how to say. A lot of these methods are repeated, right? So it's the same thing for multiple resources. So I've got to be, I'm a little conservative with testing the same thing over and over again. As for functional testing, there is now a Tempest plugin patch up. I've got positive and negative testing. It's mostly the same tests used for the previously implemented resources, and I believe they're all passing at this point. We do have the client patch as well. Actually, no, I'll let you show, all the different tests in the Tempest.
Very good coverage.
Yeah, we've got stuff for different values, wrong values, long values.
Yeah, that's great. Let me open the other change.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a client
client
one.
change. Yes, so at this point, we're really only implementing it in the OpenStack client. So I've created the set command, but really the only thing you can set is property. So all of the driver implemented metadata stuff, there's not much you can change there. In this case, we've got property, so you can set, you can unset, and I've exposed them in the setup config file so that you can actually try to use these commands. We've got unit tests, basic unit tests. These are the same ones from the other resources as well. So it tests that you can't use it in previous micro versions, things like that. And yeah, short and sweet. This is stuff we've seen before. I will say that in my attempt to get it working in my local dev stack, I get stuck with a not found error when I try to set some metadata on an export location from a like a test share. So I haven't quite figured out where it's going wrong. I have a feeling it may be something with. So in the abstract layer, I have accounted for resources that are themselves a sub resource. For example, the subnet, was it network subnets in the URL? When you hit this API, there you have to have the network from which it belongs. So similarly with export locations, it belongs to, or at least in this case, share export locations, it belongs to a share. So I have a feeling that somewhere in sending the share ID and the export ID, it may be using the wrong one. I have to do a little bit of investigation there. The reason I added this ability to handle parent and child resource is for the in the DB layer, some of these you have to provide the parent resource to find it. For export locations, you don't. You can just find the export location using its own UUID. I know that for I believe snapshots, you could find a snapshot by first finding the share. I think so. Somewhere, somewhere in looking for the export location itself, it's not finding it, and yeah, that's where I've been debugging myself lately. Yeah,
So it's a
that's everything.
sub-resource for as far as the path goes, but it's not a
Hmm.
sub-resource as far as the way we are storing it in the database for that
Exactly.
value. Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You had to invent something new in that get retrieving logic.
For the not found errors, I mean, something that usually happens as well is when I have mismatching API versions from the Manila API and also from Python Manila client. So it says it couldn't find. So that's also like one thing, like make sure that the Python Manila client change, the Python Manila client code, and also the Manila code, they have the same API version. Otherwise, I think if the Python Manila client version is lower than the Manila version, then there's a chance we get not found as well. But yeah, sounds like I think you have already like a good idea about like the not found one. I'm not sure. Maybe you have already checked that, and I'm just like saying this again. But
Yep.
that's something that we usually see when we are working with APIs and introducing new micro versions and stuff.
Yep. I will double check that just to make sure.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think in the past we discussed, right? I mean, and I think just like trying to bounce back the discussion is, I think we talked about not allowing the preferred field to be updated or allowing it to be updated. Um, and I remember there was something that we said we shouldn't update. I think would it be the preferred? I don't. If I remember correctly, Gotham. Actually, I don't
No,
know.
it is. So technically, you have I mean, so this is one of those things where there was pre-existing metadata, but it has to be set by the driver, right? And so technically, we've when we do something like this, when we're allowing end users to update their stuff, they should not be updating anything that drivers themselves set. And so we don't have a good mechanism for this, except when we're doing shared metadata, for instance, we have a config option that says this is admin only metadata. So only an administrator who knows what they're doing can update this metadata. So we can throw preferred in there, and it should just go ahead and consider that as a admin only metadata for export location specifically, not for share metadata. And I don't know if there is any other driver key like that. So I think we should go through the drivers create share interface, and you might see some people referencing EL metadata, export location metadata. So if they are setting some keys already, that would be one indication that those keys have to be protected from end users.
Yeah, I can make a. When I implemented the admin only metadata, I think I put that validation of, don't check these values or don't change these values within the share
Mhm.
metadata controller itself, not in the abstraction.
Mhm.
I'll have to double check that. But I can add that validation into the export. The share export location controller,
Yeah.
because there's yeah, some overrides in there. I can do, yeah. I can, so preferred is definitely one. I can add also just the basic, like everything that's made when you make a share. So like the created at, updated at is admin only, or how many of those are metadata and how many is just
So is-admin only
attributes
is
of.
one of those things that we wanted to make it into a metadata, but we never did. So it's not a,
Uh,
it's in the base model itself.
okay, okay,
So it's only preferred that we invented back then, and we test the rest of the drivers.
that case, if preferred is stored as metadata, but it doesn't show as like a sub
Yeah, it doesn't.
dictionary, uh, like in the metadata. So, but if it's saved as metadata with my change, it would.
Allow you
Interesting.
to
That may
override it.
mess
Yeah.
people up as well if they're like reading into that dictionary. Huh. All right, I'll think about that and see if I can maybe keep preferred out of it so I don't break people.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Great. Thank you very much.
And when you
Uh,
do, make sure to add I mean, so preferred is going to be a common metadata item across all of the drivers. Even if you do find somebody, some of these drivers updating some other metadata key, and you're going to add it into this list of things that you cannot use, you cannot test with anything else but preferred. So make sure to add a negative test in the tempest tests that you're adding,
Yeah.
explicitly trying to update the preferred key, and you're expecting a failure.
awesome. All right. Any other question? I think yeah, I need to add a couple of notes here. Yeah, and I will be posting the recording in a bit as well. So yeah, is there something else you guys would like to bring up? Right, going once, going twice. Yeah. So I think all good. Thank you very much, Ashley, for taking over this export location metadata work in yeah and getting
Thanks.
this to conclusion. It's a very nice feature to have. We've been talking about this for a while, so I'm glad that you're working on it and that we'll be able to get this done. Yeah, so thanks for sharing your thoughts as well, and thanks for everyone for the feedback. I'll just stop the recording.